Hello everyone, this is part 12 of What If Naruto Got Lost in Time, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Karen's trembling fingers hit a snarl once more, and, furiously, she tugged her hand out of her hair with a pained hiss. Juugo eyed her with a varied expressions from bemusement to downright disdain as she struggled for something to occupy her time and hands with. The female member of Team Heavy had always been like this, for as long as Juugo had the displeasure of knowing her. Generally, Karen started out by struggling fruitlessly with the messier side of her head, and once realizing how futile an endeavor combing her hair was making to be, she'd switch to smoothing out the wrinkles in her shirt. The process, which took about 30 seconds, ended with her hands fisted at her sides. He'd never seen her have such a variety of nervous tics until, well, Sasuke came along. Juugo seemed to be the only one to notice these sorts of things. Speaking of the Uchiha, he'd been taking his sweet time in the meeting room for the majority of the morning, and Juugo was beginning to get bored. He'd been in there talking to Kabuto in hushed tones, and Juugo speculated that the reason Karen was more fluttery than usual had something to do with the fact that they all truly didn't know what this was about. And at this rate, neither did Juugo. Kabuto's visits were, fortunately, short and to the point, usually only involving Sasuke in some small stone-enclosed rooms with one dim lighting. There were many other speculations Juugo could draw from such a scenario, though he preferred not to think of things that ended with an upset stomach, and invariably scarred Sasuke and all the wild rumors about Kabuto coming to fruition. At any rate, the meetings were always between the two of them, leaving the rest of Team Heavy to wait outside like a three-man line of rejects. Sugetsu was looking off somewhere in the vicinity of the dark ceiling and the darkest corner in the room, with this aloof look on his face marred with a scowl. His shoulders were only slightly tense. Karen, to his left, was shaking like a leaf and it seemed near uncontrollable. Perhaps she believed they were lining for execution. Understood. The door pushed open slightly, the muffled voices clearing. The whatever that usually came after this was left out for courtesy only, as Sasuke pushed his hands into his pockets. Be ready by 7 tomorrow. With that, Kabuto turned the direction, and with a cynical, or perhaps lecherous, it was one of those things that was seriously hard to tell, grin he opened the door and let himself out. Personally, Juugo never liked that guy. There was something particularly off about Kabuto, and for that matter, most of the guys in Otogakure. Like he spent the majority of the time watching people bathe, or touched small children in terrible places. Perhaps that was the vibe Juugo had been feeling from him the whole time. Kabuto molests people. He came to the conclusion aloud. Luckily, his teammates were quite used to his far-fetched, usually irritating, and usually untrue, statements, yet this time, Sasuke only seemed to nod, Sugetsu had a look of agreement, and Karen sputtered, and then looked agape. X. Naruto fluffed his hair with one hand, the other holding out Sakura's latest letter for him to read. A stick of Pocky dangled from his lips, and his usual contented visage had been replaced with a disturbingly morose version that this time's Team 7 had never seen. He looked nothing like the slightly foolish-looking guy that greeted Team 7 with a grin and outlandish stories. Cold-faced and intense-eyed Naruto had a contemplative feel. His studio with its one sofa and small coffee table looked solemn with him standing in the room. The blonde sighed. Sakura sounded worried. As usual, it was engraved into her nature to worry. Luckily, it was over fickle things like his health, honestly, did she even have to ask, and the weather, not over particularly larger subjects like where the hell was he. He was grateful for the slight reprieve, and would write her back when he got back home. Though this could take some time. His coffee table was filled with, Jiraiya had insisted on him carrying a pack for all the crap, and then the pervert had proceeded to collect letters from all his friends along with newspapers, and, sadly, his latest edition of Ika Ika was crammed in there, for him to read. He'd have to reply to all of them at some point. Shikamaru's wasn't all that interesting, but he appreciated the Junin lettering him all the same. Neji's he wasn't too particularly surprised with, and all it was about was clan politics and whatever he could disclose about his missions in Anbu. He welcomed the fact that Neji had even bothered to write to him. Tsunades was the most troubling. Orochimaru's recent movements weren't pointing to anything specific, but his lack thereof did. If he wasn't doing something, he was obviously planning or mulling about something that Konoha wouldn't appreciate. And Sasuke's team sniffing around his and Jiraiya's seals wasn't anything good either. Orochimaru was planning something and Naruto was beginning to get a bit tired of the bile in his stomach that was usually only reserved for thoughts of Sasuke. While the blonde was engrossed in thought, the young Uchiha perched out his window ruminated on the subject of his most recent thoughts. Naruto's apartment was something of a bachelor's pad. It had a kitchen that was connected to the living room, with dark-colored wooden floorboards that looked as old as Konoha itself. His only furnishing was the cream-colored sofa and the long stretch coffee table with scattered letters over it. The door to his bathroom and bed was closed, so Obito could only speculate on what could possibly be behind it. There was something particularly odd about the thought of Naruto possibly living anywhere. He was an enigma, one which Obito was beginning to realize he had never really known. It almost felt wrong to place him in one certain point in time, or one memory, to associate him with a house. It has an artless feel to it, Obito thought to himself. Naruto himself did as well, wearing nothing but a black beater in slacks and a dog tag N lace hanging on his N. Needs something. Obito nearly fell out of the window, gathering his wits as quickly as possible to save himself from further embarrassment. Minato-sensei is going out to lunch, Obito said by way of explanation. Ramen. He sounded hopeful. Obito smirked. Could it really be anything else? The smile lit up his face so fast Obito could hardly remember the twisted, thoughtful look that had once been in its place. Naruto sank into the deliciously tantalizing flavor of his noodles with an unknown fervor that was usually only unleashed when learning various kick-ass jutsu. Rin's smile wavered slightly. Isn't that more than enough for one day? One day, Obito sputtered with great horror. How about one meal? Minato hummed in a sort of mix between amusement and agreement. It's ramen. Naruto protested hotly. I can't help myself when it comes to ramen, it's like, the god of all foods, food of the gods. You get my point. Rin poked the already soggy noodles in her bowl. No actually, I don't get it. Well, we can't teach the ignorant everything. Naruto mock sighed, between a large slew of noodles crammed into his mouth. Rin squawked in a bout of protest. She stopped poking her noodles and instead threw them at Naruto, who, only by his excellent shinobi abilities was able to dodge them as they ingrained themselves into the wall. Sensei, Rin whined. Do something. Like what? Minato had an easy grin spread over his face, looking comfortable leaning against the counter. Rin sputtered for words. I don't know. Anything. Minato looked contemplative. Alright, next time we go for lunch, Rin picks. He spoke at last. Rin cheered, and Naruto protested, though the words were lost in the noodles which inhabited his mouth. How quickly things had stretched into normality again confused Minato a bit, but he was in no means ungrateful for the quick and painless change. He had expected Rin to pout and mull for another couple weeks, before finally deciding that Naruto wasn't being spurious about the whole thing. Obito looked content snickering at the pair, sitting between them and making his was around his fourth bowl of ramen, nothing compared to the staggering amount of Naruto's, but a decent collection. But ramen is the best. Naruto's protest, this one with actual words, not just gurgles, pushed out Rin's laughter. I mean, I can have ramen every day. You should see me and Kaito. Yeah, this kid from the village. We were great ramen pals, you know. He sighed, he almost said Kakashi. That wouldn't have been good. Speaking of Kakashi, Naruto leapt from his stool in a staggering display of strength, because his chair smacked to the floor and started to roll along the floor, a pit formed from where the stool was nailed to the ground. Rin visibly paled, and Obito comically opened his mouth until the noodles were falling out. It's his birthday. Naruto leapt from out of the ramen stand, completely unaware of the damage he'd done to his favorite ramen stand. I gotta go back too, well you know. Naruto was rambling by now, and Minato couldn't even make out anything except for the first sentence and the rest was so muffled and said so quickly that they were a muddle of half phrases and partial words. Slow down. He held his hand out to steady the rapidly deteriorating blonde, heaving a breath. Repeat. Naruto took a breath, and made sure that the ramen chef was in the back, out of hearing range. It's my sensei's birthday. I gotta go back because I promised my teammate that I would go and surprise him. Aw man, how could I have forgotten? I hope I get back in time. Your sensei. Rin echoed. You never did tell us who that was, Obito muttered. Minato had a knowing smile. Well, when do you have to be there? Soon I suppose, Naruto sighed. It'll be a whole day thing probably, and it takes a couple hours before I reappear in the future, so I'll actually be there pretty late. Obito frowned. So you're leaving? He looked as if the news had just killed his entire day. Yeah, Naruto drooped, before perking once more. But I'll be back soon. Like, tomorrow at the latest. Rin looked skeptical, Obito looked downright depressing, and Minato was contemplative. Naruto bit his lip. Sakura would kill him if he missed, not with her dangerously powerful punches but with her heartbroken eyes like the color of lime glass cans. That was a gut-wrenching feeling on its own. Even though he didn't want to leave his father and his friends, he had no choice, even if they wouldn't believe him, and he knew that they were skeptical of his true intentions. He waved and said his goodbyes as quickly and sincerely as he possibly could before sprinting with as much chakra he could pour into his feet, leaping over 7 roofs at a time. It's not that he wanted to skip Kakashi's birthday or anything. Him and Sakura had planned the quiet dinner surprise at a snazzy restaurant on the better side of town for a while now, and Kakashi would be coming back from his latest Anbu mission and it was perfect timing. He'd enjoy it, but he knew that in the end he'd been wondering what Minato was up to at that time. And Sakura, she tried so hard, but Team 7 was falling apart. Had fallen apart a long time ago, and there wasn't much they could do in fixing it. Naruto had gotten to the point where he believed that Team 7 couldn't, and didn't need to be fixed. Kakashi had returned to his Anbu crazy hours, in town at 1 in the morning and already gone by 4. Sakura practically ate, slept, and lived at the hospital, and Naruto was smack in the middle in the most genius and acclaimed sealing innovation in 18 years. And Sasuke, well, Sasuke wasn't even a part of Team 7 anymore. The seal was still in the utmost of perfect conditions when he stopped his high-speed travel and created long skid marks in the dirt. He froze though, this weird, unexplainable feeling moving down his back. Like ice sliding slowly, he looked around, attentive to the muted sounds of the forest. Nothing in particular seemed to have set him off, but he couldn't quite place this disturbance. He'd never had a reason to distrust his instincts before, and he wasn't about to start now. The blonde turned down to his feet, where the sealing paper continued to glow faintly. Strange. It was made to lie dormant when it wasn't in use, and as an anchor seal, the black ink would glow a bright shade of blue. The dim light was of inky darkness, and Naruto immediately leapt off the paper and rummaged through his pack. The book was nearly a foot tall when laying on its cover, and would take a good hour to find a page that may even have a speck of relevance to his problem, and then take days to fix the problem, and Naruto just hadn't the time for that. After perusing Sealing for Dummies, Book 4, and not finding anything aside from a general rundown of the after effects of seals, not of which were of any use. Since Naruto and Jiraiya were the first to ever branch into this science of sealing, it wasn't like there was some sort of troubleshooting guide he could just look up. But it didn't look like it was malfunctioning, and it certainly wasn't burning to a crisp in his pocket, so he supposed it wasn't in any danger. That, and he was kind of in a hurry. He paused though, setting the tome down in deep consideration. What if, he began loud with confusion, this is what the seal looks like when someone is coming over. But who? Jiraiya, he admonished himself quickly. Who else? No one else knew what they were up to, Son Tsunade, but she had no idea how to work seals anyway. With no time to spare, Naruto jumped onto the large parcel, and began to make the required seals. Belatedly, as the iridescent blue shine encased him, and shattered his vision, he realized that Jiraiya didn't have the chakra capacity to use this seal. In fact, no one did. X. Dinner was a great affair. Sakura had conveniently forgot to mention to Naruto that Sai would be there, so Naruto dressed smart casual, pleased with his jeans and iron pince blue button down. Of course, he wasn't expecting his taste in clothing, and overall self-esteem as a man, to be shot down in flames the moment he walked up to the table. Sai always had different ways to insult his manhood, and never bothered to shut his mouth when doing so. You don't understand, Sakura, Sai was saying. Naruto, like every man, thinks with his. Sai. Sakura hissed, looking delicate and altogether like a real woman. She had received no such insults from Sai, and not like the usual sweatpants and t-shirt kind of girl she was. Her small black dress was attracting the attention of every man in the room, or maybe it was just her legs. Sakura had good legs, Naruto digressed. It's fine, Sakura, Naruto muttered, sipping at his salad with a look of irritation and strained amusement. Sai just enjoys conversing about his favorite subject, SS. Sakura gaped and struggled to dig her heel into his foot. The blonde yelped in pain. Don't say those kinds of words here, she hissed through her teeth, looking around worryingly. She obvious was remembering that it took a year's advance to have these reservations. You'd think she swallowed a lemon. Kakashi grinned through his mask, watching Sakura's face contort from indignant annoyance into shock. Sensei. The newly 25-year-old, or so he said, and it was the same age he said last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, had nothing to say in his defense, merely sipping his water, from behind his mask. Well, if 1-inch wonder he would like to discuss something else, he can. Sai had a much too pleasant look on his face. It looked downright weird, especially for something like Sai who generally had no emotions at all. Sakura's wearing a black thong. Naruto interrupted quickly. Said black thong wearing woman looked aghast. Sai jerked his head. That waitress over there has pink. That woman with the weird guy with the top hat. Naruto made vague movement with his head. Blue with a white stay. Yellow. Sai motioned to the frisky-looking blonde next cuddling with a brunette man twice her age. Green with pink polka dots. The woman was attractive in her 30s with her husband. Honestly. Sakura shrieked, as their voices began to rise and draw the attention of a few tables around them. This is absolutely ridiculous. Trying to prove your manliness does not mean that you show each other up by guessing woman's underwear. Kakashi hummed, looking completely unconcerned, though to be fair, he rarely looked anything but. Well, actually Sakura it is. It's correctly guessing woman's underwear. I am right, right. Sakura blushed furiously, looked at her napkin, and didn't say a word. The hostess had on black with ribbons, nice ass too. Naruto appraised. As the night, and the wait for their food, continued onwards, the competition spiraled into a fierce battle of dominance. However, Sai took the lead. Tsunade's wearing red, with frills. Sakura choked, Kakashi whistled, and Naruto cursed for his broken pride. Kakashi was just one of the most laid-back of sensei, and simply didn't mind his already grown-up little kiddie SS enjoying some perverted banter. In fact, he relished it and joined in the fun. Sakura, however, had the decency to look completely mortified and didn't say a word during the divulge into perverted, though well-meaning banter. In fact, she looked a bit pink when they started getting engrossed in Ika's latest climactic ending, with lots of climaxes. But their fun ended by nightfall when Kakashi confessed that he had to leave by noon for his next 2-month recon mission, even though he just returned from a dangerous A-Class 1 earlier that day. Naruto protested loudly, but, to his surprise, Sakura hadn't said anything. She looked heartbroken to see Kakashi overworking himself so much. She always looked so heartbroken when it came to the members of Team 7. They were her broken family, after all. He made sure that before he returned to the prior time, he left flowers from Ino's shop. He told himself that it was because she seemed so upset about Kakashi, but in truth he knew it was because he was once again escaping from his troubles, and he wanted to compensate for leaving Sakura alone. And even then, he thought guiltily, it wasn't any real compensation. The hill was covered in fresh morning dew, but, to his dismay and fear, it wasn't the only thing it was covered in. Sasuke and Sugetsu stood over the hill with looming shadows that stretched all the way to the bottom of the mount, the sun rising behind them. Dobe. The Uchiha greeted coolly, watching him over his shoulder. Naruto clenched his fists. The weird redhead who didn't know how to use a comb and the weirdo with anger management problems were combining their chakra to open the seal, he realized. The two of them looked weak and worn out, the girl to the point of collapsing. Naruto blinked. He hadn't realized that his inhuman capacity was so much larger than any other human's, or at least not to this point. He didn't even feel entirely drained using the seal, he could still fight at least, but the girl looked near unconscious, and that Juugo guy looked no better off. What the hell are you doing, Sasuke? He didn't bother with the usual jeers. Sasuke didn't even deserve that. Your teammates are S. And after a short appraisal of their ashen faces, quickly. Sasuke didn't spare them a glance, dark eyes fixed on the blonde. You've been busy, I see. Naruto growled. What are you here for, Sasuke? He spat, eyes darting furiously from the Uchiha to his teammates behind him. Though the answer was obvious, and Sasuke didn't deign it worthy of reply. He only unsheathed his katana from his hip slowly, the sword glimmering in the sun. Sasuke pivoted and then cleared the stretch of hill between them in a matter of seconds, but Naruto countered his blade with a kunai, feeling the frustration and anger bubbling inside him. You're always such a bastard, Sasuke. He yelled, pulling his kunai forward and deflecting each of Sasuke's strikes. Leaving your teammates to S, do you even know what you're doing? Tilting his head, the Uchiha stopped his brutal offense to flip backwards. A time seal, correct. Naruto stiffened. Orochimaru is well informed, said the Uchiha. I don't care about your crazy psycho child molester of a master. He said the word master with pleasure, watching Sasuke's back straighten and his lips tighten. But I know that you and your teammates will S before even successfully fulfilling the procedure. He bluffed. Really, Dobe? Have you forgotten what these eyes can do? The Sharingan's Tomo swam slowly in his eyes. I memorized those hand seals and even the correct amount of chakra to power the seal. You can't fool the Sharingan. Naruto knew that it actually took a near double amount of chakra to send himself back, and if Sasuke wanted to get back to this time, he'd have to have about 3 times the amount of chakra he had now, but he didn't want to reveal any of his ace cards yet. Chakra swirled into his hand. You talk like you know everything. Naruto hurtled into him with a full-powered Rasengan curling in his hands, and Sasuke's black-colored Chidori met his with full force. The hill's side was reduced into flying pieces of dirt and a jagged hole where a field of flowers once resided. Spitting dirt out of his mouth and using Kyuubi's eyes to see clearly through the cloud of dirt, Naruto powered another Rasengan, watching the dirt and the air sucked from the forest and the sky begin to collect in his hand like a maelstrom. Sasuke had flipped onto a tree branch nearly 20 meters in front of him, powering another Chidori. Naruto surveyed the crackling lighting wrapped around the Uchiha's hand with a keen eye. Uchiha he may be, but Sasuke couldn't keep up this high chakra fighting style for very much longer, and Naruto was going to take advantage of THT. They met again, and Naruto deliberately dodged out of the way, even at the cost of missing Sasuke with his attack. What are you playing at, Dobe? Sasuke hissed, as his curse seal started to crawl up his N. It was Naruto's turn to smirk. What? Your Sharingan eyes can't tell you. Again they sprang, but this time, Naruto used a Doton Jutsu to create a large spike of fractured earth, while Sasuke used a Kaiten. He caught a glimpse of the Uchiha's face in the crossfire, eyes narrowed in thought. Obviously Sasuke wasn't that well informed, because Orochimaru hadn't told him that with Naruto's mastery of the fourth tail, came an affinity to fire. The fireball didn't burn him at all, and he caught Sasuke off guard enough to hit him with his jutsu. Sasuke landed some paces away, obviously keeping a more circumspect outlook on their fight. The Uchiha must have realized that this was about fighting him while still conserving enough strength to successfully complete the mission. With a careful and cautious way of thinking, the Uchiha shot a side look to his water-using companion, who was waiting patiently on the hill with his near-unconscious teammates. Sugetsu. Sasuke nodded. To say Naruto was miffed that he had to fight the second best was an understatement, but he didn't bother to say anything. With infinite chakra, he could go on for days. But, the only problem was that to reach that infinite well of chakra, he'd have to tap into Kyuubi's enormous reserves, and that left him more mentally unstable and more susceptible to Sasuke's jeers. And with Kyuubi's influence, he had no idea how that would end up. He could clearly remember the incident with Jiraiya and many more tales than he could handle. It ended with a charred forest that was burnt to cinders and a large stain on the earth that would probably never recover with its teeming demonic chakra engraved into it. Sugetsu was a piece of cake. The water jutsu user of the team was keeping his distance, using chakra-preserving long-range jutsu to combat him, and it was near pointless. He may not be able to turn his body heat high enough to turn water to steam, which could only be accomplished with 3 tails, but he could still dodge them, and it was pitifully easy. This is pathetic, Naruto growled. Fight me, Sasuke. The Uchiha looked tempted, but he didn't. Feeling Kyuubi's chakra begin to intermix in his stream of chakra, his frustration and anger seemed to make him heat up. His mind was slowly becoming hazy, but he could still rein himself in. Shaking his head, he used some of the excess anger to charge at Sugetsu with an unexpectedly powered Rasengan. The man's eyes widened, before he nimbly dodged the near decapitation blow. His side looked like it had been through a metal blender, but it had barely scratched him. The ground, however, did not get off unscathed. A large scar had been torn into the ground like a wicked thunderbolt, jagged and deep enough that the bottom was too dark to see. Sugetsu quickly jumped back until he was a safe distance away, eyes widened and wheezing. He clearly hadn't expected it, and the move was so close that it must have shaken his confidence. Naruto smirked, that was what he had planned on. The rest of the long drawn-out match was him throwing off the man's defense around throwing kunai and Sugetsu dodging cautiously. Finally, Karen looked up, her face was abnormally pale, and her eyes looked hollow with dark circles underneath them. She looked sickly and near death at the same time, and she breathing was so labored her body shook with each breath. Sasuke-kun. The Uchiha looked over to his near-falling teammates. Aye, it's ready. She finished in one quick breath. Nodding, Sasuke called to Sugetsu. Keep the idiot at bay. He didn't spare Naruto a glance before making his way to the seal. Naruto's eyes widened. The seal began to glow with a brilliant blue, and the ground shook with slight tremors. There was an impassive look on his face as Sasuke purposely walked slowly into the glowing circle, between his kneeled teammates. Impassive, but knowing, as if he was clearly aware of how much this meant to his former teammate. Panic sped through the blonde. Obito, Rin, Minato. No you don't. Chakra erupted from his feet and Naruto tore through the air, clearing the hill in a matter of milliseconds and meeting surprised Sharingan eyes with the claret red of his own. When he was arm's length away, he gave the hardest push he could, watching Sasuke's surprised face and widened eyes as if he was living a year's time in a second. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.